Hello, and welcome to our new free webinar series, Geneva Center Presents The Shift. My name is Adriana Karka, and I'm the manager at Sonderly at Geneva Center for Autism. Our new series is inviting leading industry experts and community members to deep dive into diverse topics and present a range of perspectives and expertise to increase meaningful change, expand the dialogue, and empower our neurodiverse community to thrive one shift at a time. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Deanna Jose, sexual health promoter for the Relationship Group, and Gabe Wertman-Paris, self-advocate, to present on empowering your sex-esteem, exploring the language related to sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. We will learn about why we should take the time to respect and learn everyone's name and pronoun, celebrate self-expression, and the importance of gender identity. Deanna Jose has spent over a decade teaching the importance of empowering sex-esteem by ensuring everyone understands the value of self-awareness, love, and celebrating their sexuality. Deanna believes that knowledge is power and access to sex education is a basic human right, and she is passionately teaching people with developmental and intellectual disabilities across Ontario. Gabe Wertman-Paris, self-advocate, advocates for accessibility rights, helps promote Stop Gap Foundation, and supports Black Lives Matter. He is proud of his independence and the difference he makes in his community every day. Before we start, a few housekeeping notes. Please submit your questions for the speakers in the Q&A, and they will be addressed at the end of the session. You can upvote the questions you would like answered by pressing the thumbs up icon. The presentation PowerPoint will not be shared. If you have any questions, you can always email Deanna. And feedback survey will be shared at the end of the session, and you will be sent this feedback survey and also be entered into a draw for prizes, one of 2 Amazon gift cards. We invite you to stay tuned for another Geneva Center Presents The Shift event in early 2022. And so without further ado, we welcome Deanna and Gabe.
Hello, guys.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to thank you for inviting us to present to you folks today. We're going to get into the presentation. You did our introductions. Thank you very much. And what we're going to learn today. I just want to tell you and share with you a little bit about the Relationship Group and who we are. So the Relationship Group was founded about 13 years ago. And the group is comprised of over 50% self-advocates. And we have community members, we have agency members, and we have family members in this group. And we just wanted to share with you the purpose and the principles and values that we operate on. And you can learn more about us on Montage Resources website, Montage Support Services website, if you want to learn a little bit more about who we are and what we do and what we represent, and what our principles and values are. And we're really excited to present to you today. So what I'd like to share with you next is we want to talk about our sexual identity and gender expression, which is a very important topic because it's largely misunderstood. So Gabe and I are just going to go through the information today and hope that you folks will walk away from this presentation feeling like you're an ally and you have a voice and you can help through this understanding and how to support all humans in your community and how they express themselves. So Gabe, would you like to read the screen?
Yeah. When's the first time you can remember learning that some people are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or queer? Where did most of the influence of your initial impressions, understanding of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and queer people come from? E.g., family, friends, television, books, news, church, etc. How have your expressions, understanding of LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer questioning people change or evolve throughout your life?
So we want to talk about first impressions because we feel like it's really important for that reflection to occur as we start this presentation, and we think about that and reflect on our exposure and how we feel about ourselves and others in our community. And depending on where you grow up, it could be a small town, it could be the big city of Toronto. All these things are huge factors on your first impressions. And they form your bias. They form how you think and what you think. And so we hope from this presentation today that this education will help you frame that a little bit differently, but to reflect and think about exactly where this all started and where this influence came from for you. And to realize that that's what really forms who you are now and how you think. And it's really important to educate yourself and inform yourself around the transition and changes that happen within our communities. Gabe, would you like to explain this graphic to everyone so it helps people understand?
The word queer is an umbrella term for LGBTQ2+ people. That is the flag with 4 new colors. Black being the Black queer people. Brown being like Native American, Native Canadian. Blue being, I forget.
Transgender.
Transgender. And pink being...
It's the same. So the blue, the pink, and the white represent the transgender community.
Yeah, and the brown and the black represent Native Americans and Black people. And this thing in the middle here, it's like an arrow. It's like a positive space with a circle. The positive is like an upside down sphere around the circle.
And you'll see that in lots of stores and restaurants, right? Right, Gabe? You go in and you know you'll be supported.
It's a safe place to be gay or bi or transgender when you see those stickers in the window. And as I said, that is LGBTQ2 queer is just an umbrella term.
Yeah, it's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning.
In questioning and two-spirited.
Yeah, excellent. So a lot of times what people can do if you have a shop or you go into an organization or you want to support organizations is having a welcoming, positive space. So putting a sticker with the pride flag on your window or in your space really helps people feel safe and welcomed.
And the positive space line is just like a triangle around in the middle of a circle.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next video we want to share with you is something that we get a lot of questions about, and I think it's really important and timely to really learn about what does two-spirit mean. And it refers to a person who identifies as having both a masculine and feminine spirit and is used by some Indigenous people to describe their sexual, gender, or spiritual identity. And this video is going to explain in depth what two-spirit means, and I hope you enjoyed as much as we do.
All right, let me just read it really quick. Two-spirit, one more time. Though the label has only been used since the 90s, the concept of the two-spirit is something Indigenous groups have identified with for centuries. But what does two-spirit actually mean, and where does it come from? So what is two-spirit? It's an umbrella term that bridges Indigenous and Western understandings of gender and sexuality. You may recognize it as the two that sometimes appears on the end of LGBTQ2. There are many definitions and understandings of two-spirit, and each is nation-specific. The term was intentionally introduced by Native people with the goal of finding common ground and helping educate about traditional teachings in a contemporary context. The Two-Spirit Society of Denver offers the following definition. Two-spirit refers to another gender role believed to be common among most, if not all, First Peoples of Turtle Island, North America. One that had a proper and accepted place within Native societies. This acceptance was rooted in the spiritual teachings that say all life is sacred. So how did the term two-spirit first come about? In 1990, in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, at the 3rd Annual Native American Gay and Lesbian Gathering, the term two-spirit was proposed and affirmed by consensus. The word was a potential solution to what Native scholars and activists called the problem of naming, or making the many different sexual and gender identities that fall under the Two-Spirit umbrella legible across Native and non-Native cultures alike. For example, to illustrate the diversity of meanings that Two-Spirit contains, consider the following. In Lakota, the word winkte means to be as a woman and refers to two-souled Lakota people who transgress boundaries of gender from what may be considered male to female. In Dene, nadlehe means those who transform and refers to one of four separate genders: masculine-feminine, masculine-masculine, feminine-masculine, and feminine-feminine. Each gender has its own word in the Dene language. And those are just two nation-specific examples. There are so many more. Each nation's understanding of gender and sexual diversity is different and grounded in specific spiritual beliefs. Although all nations don't have a concept of Two-Spirit people, across those indigenous nations that do, Two-Spirit people were historically held in high regard and often considered sacred or divine, holding important positions like matchmakers, medicine people, or warriors on the front lines of battle. Many Two-Spirit people perform roles traditionally assigned to both men and women. Witwa, a famous Two-Spirit of the Zuni or Ihumana, was known to take part in masculine tribal matters and feminine tribal matters, and was even sent as an official Zuni delegate to Washington, D.C. Part of the reason Two-Spirit was adopted at the 1990 conference was because much of the written record on the indigenous nations of North America begins with European contact. For instance, the writings of Jesuit priests from the 1600s contain references to berdaches, which means kept boy in French, to refer to those who embodied both male and female genders. These writings often focus negatively on perceived cross-dressing among the Anishinaabe. The term is not only inaccurate in that it projects a European understanding of gender, but is widely considered pejorative by natives. Two-Spirit was an attempt at self-determination across linguistic barriers, because the existing language, foreign and imposed violently on the indigenous peoples of North America, was both offensive and deeply colonial in its gaze. European colonizers imposed homophobia, rigid binary gender roles, and misogyny under the guise of civilizing indigenous people through the Christian tradition in residential schools and beyond. As a result, indigenous people were robbed not only of their land, but of their spiritual traditions and way of life regarding Two-Spirit people. Many nations came to forbid and punish Two-Spirit unions and self-expression. As recently as 2004, Kathy Reynolds and Dawn McKinley, two Cherokee women in Tulsa, Oklahoma, attempted to marry under tribal law, setting off a convoluted legal battle with serious political and social implications. The two were thrust into the spotlight against their wishes and became instant public symbols of the battle for Two-Spirit rights under tribal law. The Cherokee tribe is the second largest in the U.S. Although they were granted the right to marry, the decision to issue them a marriage license was soon challenged and led to a tribal law declaring that a union was to be between a man and a woman. Eventually, in 2016, the law was overturned. By that time, a wider cultural shift had taken place, both outside of and within the Cherokee Nation. In recent years, many Native people are returning to their Two-Spirit traditions as a way to heal from the injustices the American colonial project has visited upon their ancestors and traditions. In 2011, the first known U.S. Two-Spirit powwow was organized by the Bay Area American Indian Two-Spirits. Since then, powwows honoring Two-Spirits have been held in Montana and Kansas. And in March of 2017, the largest powwow in the U.S., the Gathering of Nations, honored Two-Spirit people during its grand entry. Two-Spirit identity is resilient and precious. It has survived centuries of colonial violence and prejudice. These sacred ways of knowing live on amongst Native youth seeking to know more about themselves, elders who have kept the traditions alive in spite of the odds, and anyone in between. It should go without saying, but Two-Spirit is not a poetic way for non-Native LGBTQ people to express themselves. We're looking at you, Jason Mraz. It is, however, a sacred tradition among the first peoples of this land we call Turtle Island that all of its inhabitants should know about and respect.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I hope people appreciate the term two-spirit and our history with the word, which is, founded in Manitoba, Canada, which is very exciting. And I wanted people to know sort of the depth of two-spirit and what it means and how important it is. I want to explain a little bit about the pride flag, or let Gabe sort of read to you about the pride flag progress and how fantastic that is. And Gabe, can you read the flag?
The flag's 5 horizontal colored stripes represent the diversity of gender, fluidity, gender fluid identity, and the gender fluid community. Gender fluid people may also identify as part of the non-binary community, transgender community, or as multigender. In 2018, Daniel Cesar designed the Progress Flag as the symbol for the community, which features black and brown stripes to represent people of color, and baby blue, pink, and white to include the trans flag in its design.
Yeah, so we just wanted to explain the Pride Progress flag because we want people to understand that pride is progress. It's allowing everyone to accept and to celebrate who they are. And so this flag will adjust and alter according to that, which is very exciting. And pride is progress. And so if you see this flag out in your community, it's a fairly new flag, and you'll see it a lot more, which is very exciting in terms of how things change and evolve. We want to get into explaining the 3 dimensions of sexual orientation, and I'll let Gabe read the circles to you.
Sexual identity. How you label your sexual orientation. Sexual behavior. What you do sexually with others. Sexual attraction. Who you are attracted to.
And we want to explain this 3 dimensions of sexual orientation because it seems to be the most where people struggle the most. And people internally struggle if they're looking to identify, but also community members and people who want to be allies. This is all very confusing. And it's also as people who are maybe, caregivers or people who work at agencies, or if you work with folks who are struggling with their sexual orientation, this is a fantastic way to break it down and to explain it to you. And I'll get into it here. And we'll break it down here. Would you like to read the gender unicorn? Gabe, please.
Yeah. The cisgender. The gender that you were assigned at birth corresponds with their sex. Transgender. People of a gender identity or gender expression that differs from the sex assigned at birth.
So this is a fantastic graphic to sort of explain in a graphical, sort of delightful layout to explain to someone or to others around what gender identity is, what gender expression is, what physical attraction is, and emotional attraction, and also the sex assigned at birth. And where I want to start with is in the beginning. So sex is basically what it says in your birth certificate, okay? It correlates with your gender and the gender that you were born with or assigned at birth. So that's what we call cisgender, okay? And it's simply that. It's what the birth certificate says in terms of what you were assigned to at birth. Now, not everyone has genitalia that's identifiable. And if it doesn't match a male or female gender, it's called intersex. So it doesn't match the traditional definition of male or female. So the term is intersex. Gender identity or expression is simply a social construct that each of us gets to decide based on what we know to be true for ourselves. So think of it as the whole person, even how you dress, how you do your hair, what you wear, how you express yourself in terms of what you wear, in terms of whether it's feminine or masculine or other. That's gender identity, gender expression. And it's also in the mind. It's who you are and who you feel you are. And that expression in your mind and how you operate and how you live your life is very much how you express yourself. And we know that because we all look and dress and do our hair differently and feel different. And then we get into physical attraction, sometimes referred to as the sexual orientation, okay? This is not the same as gender. Physical attraction is how you feel solely who you're attracted to, what your heart says, who are you attracted to? And then we have emotionally attracted to, which is also part of the heart as well. And so the physical and emotional attractions are very much around what the heart says and how you align that and how you feel and navigate your life in the world. What I also want to just make sure that I point out in this conversation is it's really important that the terms and how you express this is done in a very high level and very respectful way. And basically, cisgender and transgender, these two terms you'll hear a lot more. People refer to themselves as, because it's really important to align trans and cis in the same level. Transgender isn't below or above cisgender, but it's a way to align our genders to make it basically say, I identify with the gender I was born with versus I don't identify as the gender I was born with or assigned to at birth. Really simple. Gabe, would you like to read about the non-binary for everyone, please?
Yeah. Non-binary or genderqueer is the spectrum of gender identities that are not exclusively masculine or feminine. All right, let's see if we can read these. They're small. Non-binary is a broad term that covers every
gender
identity outside of binary man and woman. Number 2, non-binary people are every age, ethnicity, sexuality, religion. What's the other one? Religion,
size,
neurotype, disability, and expression. Not every non-binary person
is genderless. I can read
And
the last one.
It's so small.
Okay, so some genders under non-binary are gender fluid, gender queer, gender flux, bigender, pangender, polygender, demi-boy, demi-girl, audigender, agender, nutrus, gray gender, movique, two-spirited, and sometimes people just want to be called non-binary or queer. And why this conversation is so important is because this is where people get intimidated. And this is where language becomes difficult for people because they're trying to be really, be an ally and really work with and understand the process. And basically what I want to just really simplify is non-binary simply means that you're not committing to being a male or a female. One day you can dress and feel masculine, so you will dress masculine. The next day you might feel feminine, you'll dress feminine. Basically, just non-binary is non-committing, not committing. And for some people, that's really freeing and really important. And gender fluid is identifying things can change at different points in their life, right? So gender can be fluid and it could change at different points. You might feel more masculine now, but down the road, maybe in a couple of years, you may feel more feminine. But what's really important is that you don't use the label. You let people identify themselves to you. And sometimes you're might have to navigate the non-binary or the language around how to support someone what they feel. But what's really important is that we honor how they identify themselves and that you have some understanding of what that means, which can be very intimidating. And so we want to get into a little bit about what the orientations are. When we talk about sexual orientations, we're talking about, again, gender, not the same. It's solely who you're attracted to. So we don't get into all of them, but Gabe, do you want to read maybe the first 3?
If I can see them.
Okay, I can do it for you, Gabe, because I didn't think you could. So
can you possibly expand it?
Can I expand it? Maybe not. Okay. How about I just read it and then you could speak up to it, okay? Okay.
Yeah, I got glasses.
Okay, let me get into it so we don't waste any time. But agender, on terms of the romantic and sexual scale, does not experience attraction towards anyone. You got it?
Got it.
Awesome. So I did agender, which means you're not attracted, you have no attraction to anyone.
Gray. Gray, let's see here. Gray. Yeah, writing small. Even with my glasses.
Rarely experiences attraction towards anyone. So that's gray gender, okay? And demi is experiencing attraction towards someone only after developing a very strong bond.
Homo is
And then we have heterosexual. What's heterosexual, Gabe?
heterosexual.
Just off the top of your head, you know what it is. What is it?
It's liking both a man and a woman.
Heterosexual is when you like the opposite sex.
The opposite sex, yeah.
Yeah. It's bisexual that when you're attracted to a man and a woman. And homosexual.
We're attracted to guy.
Yeah, the same sex. Yeah. And then we have pansexual. Is an attraction towards all genders regardless of gender. Okay, all genders regardless of gender. And poly is you're attracted to multiple, but not necessarily all genders, more than one person. So orientations are sort of labeled this way in terms of to help for folks to understand the difference between romantic and sexual in this layout. And I apologize for the little font. It's a great graphic for people to understand orientations and if you're looking for those details. And part of under the orientation umbrella is for people to understand when Pride occurs in Toronto and across the world, it's not about a party necessarily. It is a celebration because we've made progress as we do with the flag, but it's a celebration of who everyone is as people and celebrating their orientation, their fluidness, their expression. And with that orientation comes categories of different groups for different folks that identify. And that's really meaningful for people who are looking to find people in their community. So we won't go into all of them, but can you see a couple of these, Gabe?
Yeah. Gay bear, and
Androphilia.
Androphilia, lesbian, gynophilia.
Philia. Asexual.
Asexual.
Yeah.
Demisexual.
We don't have to read all of them, but I'm pretty sure that most people who see this now will not have a clue that this many flags occur under the sexual orientation.
But I read bisexual, pansexual, nihilosexual. The next one is, I forget what that one.
That's okay. But what I want to just point out is there is a group for asexual community, okay, and orientation. And unfortunately, what ends up happening with the folks in the developmental disability community is they get labeled as asexual because they're medicalized in terms of their intellectual, not necessarily their sexual orientation, and they're categorized in that way. And it's really important for people to allow and make choice what orientation they are, and that label's not placed on them, but that's often what ends up happening. And so this is, again, a great conversation to explain sort of different types of your orientation and sort of how do you feel, where do you fit in your community. Gabe, this is your favorite one.
Can I just interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
Just for better viewing for our participants, is it possible to put the screen on presenter mode?
Yes. Sorry. Is that better?
Yes, that's wonderful.
Perfect. Thank you so much. No problem.
Okay, continue. Thanks so much.
Thanks for that feedback, folks. Sorry about that. Gabe?
Yeah. Self-expression. Self-expression is the expression of your personality, feelings, or opinions. For example, art, acting, or dancing. Why is self-expression important? Because it allows people to distinguish themselves from others, to reflect on their own beliefs and needs, and validate their own self. Self-expression might be one, if not the most important way for people to connect, navigate, and grow with each other. Source Psychology Today.
Yeah, and so what I just want to share that self-expression is probably the most important thing that we can do in our day-to-day lives and allow the folks we support to do in the day-to-day lives. Having choice of what to dress and how you want to dress is the most empowering thing you can provide to someone. Regardless of whether you agree or not with what they're wearing, as long as they're not harming themselves or others, I think self-expression is something that's just beautiful and should be celebrated. And something Gabe has taught me is this term called voguing, and he's going to introduce this, and then we're going to play a video for you.
How the LGBT community created voguing. What is Vogue? Vogue or voguing is a highly stylized modern house dance originating in the late 1980s that evolved out of the Harlem ballroom scene of the 1960s. It gained mainstream exposure when it was featured in Madonna's song and video Vogue, and when showcased in the 1990 documentary Paris is Burning.
All right, so we'll play that video now for you guys to enjoy.
I was inspired by voguing because voguing allows you to be anything and anyone you want to be.
Vogue is within the realm of a dance family. And that's what it's supposed to be, a dance family.
The name voguing comes from Vogue magazine. The movements that define the dance are based on model poses from the fashion publication. Willie Ninja, who's called the godfather of voguing, also drew inspiration from martial arts, ballet, gymnastics, and even pantomimes. In the critically acclaimed documentary Paris is Burning, Ninja defines the dance as an extension of throwing shade. Instead of fighting, two people would settle their beef on the dance floor. So whoever had the best moves would be throwing the best shade. During the 1970s in Harlem, houses were formed within the larger drag ballroom scene. These houses serve as surrogate families, primarily for Black and Latino queer youth. Each house is led by a mother or father who also serve as guides to the ballroom community. House of LaVesia was the first to form in the late 70s. Other notable houses include the House of Extravaganza, Ninja, Pendavis, Corey, the House of Wong, the House of Dupree, and there are many others in New York and across the U.S. While many of the names came from the founders, other houses are named after designers like Chanel and Saint Laurent. Members come together to walk against one another in various categories at elaborate balls. Beyond the performance or throwing shade, these balls create a safe space for empowerment and belonging.
Whatever you carry with you, you leave it on that floor, you know? Whether it's suffering from illness, whether it's suffering from acceptance, whether it's suffering from not having a place to call your home, your house becomes your home.
After the AIDS epidemic in the 80s, when a large population of the ballroom community was hit hard, the legendary balls and the houses that organized them also became a place for activism and awareness. Younger generations of voguers can be seen taking the stage at smaller Kiki balls hosted by the Gay Men's Health Crisis, an organization that advocates for the prevention of AIDS.
It all started at GMAC when GMAC was trying to figure out how to get young people to come into the building, and so Kiki balls began so we could sort of attract them to come in for services.
These balls serve as an outlet for self-expression, activism, and offer a resource for gay and trans youth at risk of HIV, homelessness, abuse, and depression. Outside of ballroom culture, voguing has long been synonymous with fashion and glamour. It's often confused for Madonna's co-opted version of the dance form. But it means so much more to the community that made it.
Dance is the one thing that you can control with your body. That's something that's a being that comes from you. When you can take anything that comes from you and gives you a certain amount of being comfortable in your own skin, I think that's great, you know, and that is empowerment.
When you get up there, when you walk that ball and everyone's cheering for you in that moment, you feel like everybody sees you. It makes you feel like you're not alone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that video around voguing. I just want to make a comment about dance and the power of dance and expression. And I think when people think about celebration, they think dance and how important that is and how meaningful that is just in general in our day-to-day life. And I hope that resonated with you. It does with me every time I watch it. I wanted to explain a little bit about romantic attraction. We talked about this in terms of coming from the heart, right? And that orientation and that piece. And again, we're talking about different flags that mean different things. And we won't read this out other than we'd probably just want to really let people know that there is a representation around groups that identify. And polyamorous is probably the term that people talk about the most. And it's a community that's been growing and we're been hearing more about. And it's really just accepting that you have more than one intimate partner at a time. And so people have different biases or feelings around polyamorous relationships. And I think what's really important is to have those conversations with the folks if they are seeking and wanting those types of relationships out, to label that accordingly and to have a conversation as open-mindedly as possible. And that attraction is a really important piece to discuss because it means different things for different people. But there is community around there. What I want people to understand before we play this video is this is a beautiful video just sort of explaining in the most beautiful way I could possibly think of any video I've watched, what romantic attraction means and what the heart means and what it does. And I hope you enjoy this video. It's called In a Heartbeat. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that. One of the things I want you to know through this presentation is Gabe and I want people to understand and learn, but it's not beneficial just for us to talk at you. Gabe and I know that. Videos are really helpful. The energy that comes from the videos and the feelings that come from that are really helpful. And those are great ways to have discussion. And when it comes to gender and gender identity and orientation, that expression comes out in many different ways. So it's really important to share different ways to communicate with people to get those conversations going. So Gabe, can you help me do the non-binary, the gender expression?
Yeah.
Please.
Androgynous. No, identifying and or presenting as either specifically masculine or feminine.
As neither, yeah.
Gender fluid. One who embraces fluidity of gender identity. Agender. For who does not identify as a particular gender. Gender nonconforming. B.
One who's physically or behavioral.
When a physical or behavioral characteristics do not correspond to the traditional expectations of their gender. Genderqueer. One who does not identify with a single fixed gender.
So you can see why non-binary can be a very complex term to understand. But for people just to simply understand that their gender is their decision, and from day to day they can decide what they feel. And what happens also too is what I find working in the community with individuals who identify as having IDD is that it's a beautiful community to work in because many people are gender fluid. They don't necessarily see gender, they see people and they celebrate. And there's something to be said about that. It's not part of the conversation, it doesn't come up first, or that they celebrate people's expression and they enjoy that, which is really wonderful when you're a community trying to, explore yourself and who you are. So like orientation, there's a lot of identities. And I don't know, Gabe, you probably can't read too much of this, but we talked about one today, which is two-spirited, which was a really important one.
Gender fluid, androgynous, drag feather, a dragger, father, I forget what that's like.
Yep, drag feather.
Drag feather, God, or genderqueer, big,
Bigender,
gender non-binary,
hermaphrodite.
Yeah, I read this one.
Yeah.
Hermaphrodite, intersexual, neutrals, transsexual, transgender, two-spirit, and trigender.
Yeah, so there's a lot of identities. And when you're meeting and discussing identity with people, please know that there's many. And people can navigate through this. And they may not identify as just one, but they might flow through and maybe identify with others. So I just wanted to celebrate and show you the flags when it comes to gender identity and how important it is to celebrate. And then we get to the pronouns.
Here's them, there, her, thee, she, his. Do another one day, them, thing. They, him, her.
So gender pronouns sets up a tone of allyship. So in your email signatures or how you refer to people is really, really important if you want to be an ally. And that's pretty much sort of what our goal is today around this presentation. Is Gabe, would you like to read these?
Read them again? Okay.
No, the
Here,
top. Never assume.
never assume a person's pronouns. Asking and correctly using someone's preferred pronoun is one of the most basic ways to show you respect, to show your respect for their gender identity. Introduce yourself with your own pronouns.
So if Gabe and I were meeting for the first time, I'd say, "Hi, Gabe. My name is Deanna, and I refer to the pronouns as she and her." And
Then
Gabe
I
would say,
say, "Hi, I'm Gabe. My pronouns are he, him."
"Perfect." And so that's a really great way to start changing the narrative around pronouns and being respectful around how people refer to themselves in their pronouns. And so we see that a lot in email signatures now, but even just in conversations, it's really important to acknowledge that people might use different pronouns than what they appear in person to look like to you. There's a fantastic resource that came out during COVID, and it's something that the 519 has created. It's called Jeji.ca, and it helps you advocate for your gender expression, gender identity as a human, and it's very specifically geared towards the school system. And it helps as a resource. Are you able to read this one, Gabe? Or should I do it?
The goal of GG.ca is to equip Ontario students and teachers, whether transgender or cisgender, with the tools to advocate for the right to express and live their
Gender
in their own way without experiencing discrimination, harassment, or violence, and without being told they have to change. Recognizing that gender expression and gender fluidity identity have been protected grounds in Ontario's Human Rights Code since 2012. GG.ca indirectly supports schools learning about this.
Their structures.
Students, practices, and curricula may have to change.
So a lot of people don't realize that Ontario Human Rights, it's called, I believe, the C-16 in 2012, protects and recognizes people's gender expression, gender identity as a human right. And we all know in the school system, in the community, that you can become a target or become discriminated or dismissed. And so it's really important for people to understand that that law exists, that human right exists, and that there are resources out there to help you. And whether you're in the school system or not, these are fantastic resources and a great site to refer to if you need any more further information.
Like it says on the bottom here, hi, I'm Gigi. I'm here to help you advocate for your gender expression and gender identity, human.
Yeah, it's a wonderful resource. And I think what we hope that you get from this presentation for sure is that, well, in this beautiful video that we're going to sort of come to the end with and play for you, is that love has no labels. And you can be an ally by just simply acknowledging and supporting the community, by asking about pronouns, using pronouns, and starting to educate yourself around how to support the community in a more meaningful way, and to acknowledge that people live their lives differently. And so this video, when we teach and talk about sexuality and we talk about who we are, we're all the same on the inside. And I really hope that you love this video as much as I do. around really exposing that we're all the same on the inside. But it's our expression and who we are that changes the way people acknowledge and support us, or we're more open to discrimination. And so this video is a beautiful way to celebrate people in general.
And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. 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 She keeps me warm.
My heart doesn't see race.
Love has no age limit.
That's my best friend.
We are neighbors and best friends.
We all have different religions, but we have universal love as well.
I love my sister.
Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Not crying on Sundays, 'cause I'm not crying on Sundays. Patient, love is kind.
Wonderful. I hope that you enjoyed this video. It's a wonderful way to end such a great presentation for Gabe and myself. We're such an honor to be here, and we're going to open up to some questions that you might have. We're happy to answer, Gabe and I.
Hi. Thank you so much for a really thought-provoking presentation. Great videos, great sharing. So there are a few questions from the Q&A. And the first one is somebody's work is considering policy that will require or encourage individuals to share their pronouns. Do you think that trans non-binary people may find this to be supportive, or could it cause tension for some?
Gabe, do you have any thoughts about that?
I guess it's a good thing because then people would know they're safe and supported.
I think it's really, I think it's really important that people understand the reason. So I think any policy that's introduced, you need to provide education. And with that, education allows people to understand why the policy is being put in place. And what it does is it allows people not to have to constantly ask people to refer to you as your pronouns, and to respectfully do it. And it changes the culture. But that doesn't happen overnight. People have biases. So my only suggestions with policy changes is education and understanding of what pronouns mean, and that we all examine our own biases when we enter into this kind of mandatory sort of pronouns conversation, and how we're allies, and we want people to be allies. So I think that's the best way to approach it. And if you have individuals in your organization who identify as being transgender, use them as your resource and your tools for how you would like to see them roll this out. And there's a lot of organizations. The 519 actually has a lot of great resources on how to roll out these types of policies, and you can refer to them. I understand it's very, very thoughtful, and it's very forward thinking, but just make sure you do it in a way that educates people.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Another question is, can you clarify that the two-spirit identity is only for Indigenous individuals?
It's completely correct. It is only for Indigenous. It's the language for them.
Native.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it is their language. And very respectfully, it's their language. So by using it, not identifying as being Indigenous, it's a slippery slope there, because it's language that's theirs. And if you watch the video, he made it really clear. The individual made it really clear that that's sort of the language that they identify. And it goes very deep. Two-spirit goes very deep. Two-spirit has been a part of their fabric and their culture. And it's something that that we as individuals can appreciate now, that they've always had two-spirit, which is a really beautiful thing.
Great, thank you. Another question. Somebody said, anyone who attends this training or such a training would be in support of supporting individuals who we support in their gender and sexual identity. Any tips on how to encourage coworkers to best support?
So this is why we do this presentation. And I think Gabe and I believe that everyone shouldn't be judged. And if you work in this field, you should be very open and celebrate humans as who they are as people. And
don't be judgmental. Ask them how they're feeling. Ask them how they are each and every day.
Yeah, and so what you have to do in this case, and we actually do workshops called Strengthening Family Relationships, so we talk about bias, our unconscious bias, and that we carry with us. And so I will never assume that everyone's going to be on all open and supportive in these conversations. But we have to get people to be allies and at least be respectful around people's choices to celebrate who they are as a person and to honor that person. And so education, again, like the policy, you introduce a policy, you have to educate people and create an open mind community and use languages and use those things that we used examples before. But it's not going to happen overnight. And so you're going to have to provide a lot of education and support to individuals that are struggling. And so for the relationship group, for instance, we started out of a need, and we provide educations from a self-advocate perspective, from a community perspective, and we across the board come in and provide that education. And when you do that from the outside coming into organization, it doesn't look, I guess, a little less threatening, but it looks like it just sort of, this is a progress we need to make to support every human in society to live their best lives, regardless. Okay,
thank you. So I know that we're already over 1 o'clock. Mm-hmm. We have one more question that we can ask at this time, and then I wondered if you'd be able to share your contact information or a place where people can ask other questions. So the question that I wanted to still ask was, do you have any resources or recommend anything for autism and gender identity fluidity? Any support groups or any other information?
So I would say reach out to me. Unfortunately, these topics aren't coming with a lot of resources. So we usually connect with some other folks with other groups, so we can think about that together in terms of what's out there. I'm happy to share it. So would you like me to share my email?
Yes, if you're comfortable doing so, please do.
I popped it into the chat. It's a relationship.group.toronto@gmail.com. We can share this at the end with anyone who wants to reach out again about our information. And you can reach us on Montage Relationship Group, Montage Support Services on their website. You'll see that we're in there as a relationship group.
You can reach me on their website or through my email.
Yeah, Gabe and I do this presentation together all the time, and we are happy to provide any supports that agencies require.
Wonderful. Well, on behalf of Geneva Center, on behalf of our new webinar series, The Shift, we just wanted to tell you how thrilled we were to have you with us today. Thank you so much for your time and for the knowledge sharing. And also thank you for sharing your contact so that we are able to continue connecting with you in the future. So everyone have a wonderful afternoon. And I do encourage you all to continue looking at our Geneva Center Presents The Shift series as new webinars come along. Take care, everybody.